Hello and welcome to everyone across the nation joining today's workshop on how to enroll students in classes. This workshop focuses on using CASAS tests online together with TOPS Pro Enterprise Online for enrolling students in classes in your online database. This function is available with both basic and enhanced access. In other words, no TOPS Pro Enterprise license is required. Actually, I'm sorry, I do need to correct myself on that. Classes are specifically related to agencies who have either have a TE license or a collective agreement in place with CASAS for enhanced access. So the class function is not available for basic users. Now, administrators and teachers can be added by the TE Enhanced or ET Basic user classes. Okay, sorry, I'm being corrected here. Yeah, primarily classes can be added by the TE Enhanced user. Basic users, folks, if you are a basic user, don't fear. Even though you may very well have defined classes for your organization, but perhaps are only using the CASAS online system in a basic manner, you can still generate or mimic generating class-based reports. You just won't be able to actually enroll students in classes and record instructional hours because those features are exclusive for enhanced access. So I hope that makes sense. And folks, please don't hesitate to ask questions along the way. I encourage you to do so. I will do my best to monitor the chat box throughout today's workshop. And then if you are equipped with a microphone, don't hesitate to chime in and project your voice into the meeting room and ask your questions along the way. Now, folks, this today actually wraps up a set of 23 complimentary online CASAS online implementation workshops with enrolling students and adding instructional hours. And then we begin a complete repeat of all 23 workshop topics starting tomorrow. So if you've missed any of these topics or would like to review and by attending again or direct other staff members, colleagues to these workshops, we encourage you to do so. These are open to a national audience. Online help documentation is available on our website under Training and Support, eTest Help Documentation, and TE for TOPS Pro Enterprise Help Documentation. Please be sure to bookmark these as your electronic go-to resources. Resources in both of these areas on our website provide a wealth of information that is routinely updated. And so you'll want to ideally, you'll want to keep these in an electronic fashion so that you have the assurance of accessing the most current, up-to-date information at any time. Certainly, you can print out materials. That's no problem. Just simply check back on the website for more current information. The CASAS eTest Online Guide is a great resource to bookmark. It provides most of the information, if not all the information, that is presented in these implementation workshops. We have diverted just slightly over to TE documentation, and that documentation in these last few workshops is going to be included in the CASAS Online Guide. We actually are taking the opportunity for this year's National Summer Institute to no longer provide separate guides for CASAS eTest and TOPS Pro Enterprise, but to combine guides into one comprehensive CASAS Online user guide. And so we are undertaking that task. It is quite involved. I can't guarantee that every single piece of documentation especially in the TE category. As you can see, we have quite a lot of topic areas here, and if you click in a topic area, and actually I'm pointing to the area for which we will use information for this this workshop and the workshop following is under class, student, and personnel information, primarily class information here. And so when you open this, you can see that there is quite a lot of documentation listed on this web page. We don't intend to include every piece of this documentation in the CASAS Online User Guide. The Online User Guide will be primarily for the basics, to basic implementation. And then for more detailed information, we will always reference or point you back to the website for additional detailed documentation. So with that, today's workshop specifically is on how to enroll students in classes, and that's this document here, adding students to classes. And so if you, when you have a chance, go ahead and download a copy of that and make notes if you can during today's workshop, or take notes and then merge your notes with that together. The CASAS eTest Online Guide does contain, let's see, for some reason we omitted enrolling students in data management, but we did include adding instructional hours. So for the next workshop, you will find information in the guide as well as in the TOPS Pro Enterprise help documentation. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and move on. Most of you I see signed up and joining us today are either just getting started with the online system, or you've already been using the online system. But just for everyone's benefit, I want to emphasize the difference between the production server, which the main domain name is etestsonline.org. This is where you will be producing live data. Whenever we push out an update to the online system, or you want to experiment and explore without risk of compromising your live data, please use the simulation server for Rolling Hills Adult School. This has fictional data that you can work with on a daily basis. There's the production server that I pasted in the chat box, and now I've pasted the URL to the simulation server. Experiment and explore with in the simulation server. We have just pushed out an update yesterday that includes, it's called Batch Insert, and so you are the first audience who will witness a training. I'm going to include that in this workshop. It's a feature that we've been anxiously awaiting for a while, and I'm so pleased that it is finally available. So I will demonstrate that for you. The Rolling Hills Adult School database refreshes nightly, so any work performed in it on one day is not present the next day. That includes both TOPS Pro Enterprise Online as well as CASAS eTest Online. So don't feel you are going to mess up anything. You won't. All right, okay. So folks, with that, we're going to primarily spend our time in TOPS Pro Enterprise with this workshop. There are 3 ways to access Enterprise, either from your web browser, TE client, or if you have placed a shortcut for TE client in your system tray. I'm pointing here at the bottom of my screen, which is my preference here. But then the third method is clicking the icon that is automatically placed on your desktop when you initially install Enterprise, as well as when you update to the latest version. This icon will also update at the same time. So with that, we're going to go ahead and launch Enterprise. Be sure that you are accessing the simulation server. We have other servers here. These are also production servers, some dedicated. This one is for majority of our users, eTest Online. And so make sure that that is displayed in the server field. Agency ID for Rolling Hills is 4908. We have 50 generic administrator, coordinator, proctor, and teacher accounts. So simply use one of those words to describe that user. Add a number from 1 to 50 after that, and then the simulated email extension of @rhas.org. The password for administrator is simply admin. For coordinator, it's coordinator. For proctor, it's proctor. And for teacher, it's teacher. So you can experiment and explore the access that is granted to those different types of users by logging on as those users. Again, folks, don't hesitate to ask questions along the way. Now, the recommended approach to enroll students in classes is from the organization menu. And the reason why this is the recommended approach is because classes must first exist in your online database before you can even enroll students in the class. So this is the approach that I'm going to demonstrate. So from organization, classes, and more specifically, it is the instance of that class occurring within the program year. So if, for example, if I enroll as, you know what, actually, I think that might be a good idea here. Let me just change my user to a teacher. Now, it's up to you, folks. For managing users through access groups, whether or not you will grant your teachers access to Enterprise, and then how much access you will provide to them. Generally, a teacher is not prohibited to add student records, update student records, or delete student records. However, in this sample access group to manage teacher accounts, teachers are allowed to enroll students in their classes as well as add instructional hours. So as I'll put on my teacher hat, and so this is the example here for a teacher. And notice there is no room for error in where to go when you are logged on as a teacher. So organization, classes, instances. This brings up the class lister. In other words, it's a list of classes in the current program year. Now, generally there would be a dedicated start and end date, but keep in mind, folks, this is a fictional database, and so we could spend a lot of time updating this database, but we've are short of time and resources, as I'm sure all of you are as well. So let's go ahead and let's just take this first class as an example. The idea here is that the teacher would either filter for their class, either by class ID or the class description, or they could filter for the site of their class here. They can also pre-select the site from this field here. It's agency/site, such as, I'll just go to South Campus here. So you have a South Campus here, and let's say that I'm a teacher in, I'll just say ESL Advanced class. Double-clicking on that brings up the detailed information about that class instance. In other words, the instance of that class occurring in the current program year. To enroll students in my class, I would simply click Enroll or Class Enrollments, and from the right of this split screen here, I would click New to add a new enrollment. Enrolling students through the class instance is beneficial and leaves little room for error because this information here that you see is auto-filled, which is beneficial. So the site, the program year, as well as the instance of the class. So all that remains as far as in this area is to use the drop-down arrow to select the student. Now this is one method to enroll students in classes. Well, let's see, with the new feature, actually, let's explore together and see if the new feature will allow the teachers to do a batch enroll. So either select the student individually by selecting their name if you see the name displayed in this minimal list, or type to search. This will auto search for a student, or you can select from a lister. I'm going to actually choose that option to see if I say selected, I'll just at random select, say, Rick Williams, Maria, and Elizabeth as an example. On the More button, clicking Miscellaneous, there's Batch Insert available. So Batch Insert students in the class. So I would simultaneously enroll 3 students at the same time in my class. So I would click Student in Class. Let's see, we're in the ESL Advanced class. The program year is automatically filled in. The start date defaults to today. That would make sense. We're not going to select an end date. Class start date is auto-filled here. We're simply going to say OK. And you are about to insert 3 records. Are you sure? Yes. Three out of 3 records were successfully imported, or excuse me, added to this class. So we'll click OK. And let's cancel pick here. I can see some areas of improvement as I'm actually using this for the first time in our live demonstration. Let me cancel pick here. And let's go ahead and cancel this. And refresh. And now you see the additional 3 students that we just enrolled. So that's a quick method. Now these, let's try that just one more time. I'll just demonstrate here. Notice as you type, the system is auto selecting and just simply select the student. So that would be an example of a single selection. I take that out. Also simply selecting from this list and saving. Date entered class. Now let's see. Doing it in this method, I'm seeing a little bit of a difference. If we select Elizabeth, the date is defaulting to the beginning, the first date offered for this class. When this record is saved, whoops, okay, we already added her. Let's see if we can just at random pick a different student that may not already be enrolled in the class. Okay, notice now we just enrolled Juana. And notice the date entered class, there's a little bit of a difference now between that new feature, batch insert, compared to adding students in this manner. Also, what I wanted to point out is by default, the student's status in the class is active, which is intentional. So let's go here and refresh this screen. So now we have Juana here, and then from the batch insert, we have these students, which this, I would say, is the correct function. I think that I'll be able to report back to the program manager some adjustments on this. I could have adjusted this date before we actually saved this record. So just be mindful of those slight differences and look forward to some improvements in this new functionality. All right. Now, that's the manual process for enrolling students in classes. Simple enough. Now, let me just quickly demonstrate how to, let's see, how to enroll students in classes through an import. If you are an organization that has a formal registration system, and that system is capable of providing to you lists of students enrolled in classes, then we can share with you this student class status import template. And what this import template does is that it allows you to identify the student ID, the status in the class, which this is a code for active, when that student was added to the class, or the class start date, and then when the record, that status record, was last edited. And so in this sense, the reason why these dates are identical, this is just an example file, folks. As you can see, it's taking on the fall dates. These student records happen to be, this represents students starting class on the day that the class actually started. And we can provide you the exchanging data with third-party systems document to understand the different codes for active, inactive, or completed. But the thought here is in providing this particular import template to you is for the purpose of populating a number of records, however many records that you can acquire with this limited information. The columns B, C and D, would not change for all records that you apply here. The site codes could change as well as the class IDs as they relate to each site, whether you use the extended IDs, and then of course the student IDs. All right, I would say the status would all be active for all of the students. So what I would like to demonstrate just real quick, and I've got some import files ready for you for the demonstration. And let's see here. The method for importing records from an external system, which is referred to as a third-party system, this function is reserved for the individual at your agency, which is either the TE Enhanced user or the ET Basic user that has access to the Tools menu. And here's the third-party import wizard. There is a specified order in which records should be imported. I'm going to just simply go through this quickly so that I can set up the classes that I have as a demonstration, such as teacher records here. I'll just show you how quick and simple this process is. I have a teacher records import file here. All records will successfully import. This adds the teachers and their user accounts to your online database. This is if you want to allow your teachers access to the online system to manage their classes. They need, and as well as have teachers' names appear on reports. That's from their personnel or their functional role from their personnel registration. Next, after teachers exist in your database, then we'd also have an import template to automatically add classes. So that takes away the manual process. Either acquire a list of classes from your third-party system or populate the class import template. And here's some examples here. We'll quickly import these. This automatically creates the class definition, the class instance, the instance of that class occurring in the current program year, as well as assigning the teacher to the class with a functional role. So a lot of manual processes are taken away by these simple import processes. So we've done teachers, we've done classes. I have a couple of sample students that I want to add and then demonstrate enrolling them in these classes as well. Sorry, this is taking just a little bit of time. I'm glad I didn't add any more classes to that import file. Pam, you asked, what if you don't track the teacher info? Then don't even worry about the teacher import file. That's no problem, Pam. Teachers do not need to be assigned to classes. That's just, that's at your discretion. Okay, next I'm going to demonstrate quickly how to add students. In other words, this is for those of you who would like to pre-populate your online database with student names and demographic information. We've just provided very basic demographics such as ID, name, gender, and date of birth. That is the minimal recommended demographic information. So we've got 2 records that successfully imported. We're going to be looking at those records just in a moment. And then now that we have the classes set up, the teachers assigned to those classes, we have students in classes, let me just quickly add test records as examples for those students. And I do have a purpose for that. I'm going quickly, folks, here. I realize I am. There's detailed information on each of these import screens, but I hope my demonstrating for you here helps you to understand how quick and simple it is to import records. Now, generally, you would want to check your imports in the listers just to verify successful import, but I've worked with these files so often that I know that the information is in there. All right, so here from organization, classes, instances. Well, actually, let's go classes, definitions. And I had added classes for the fall, so I'm just going to filter for specifically the fall classes. And we have this nifty child lister that I can, that increases your screen display. And if, it just increases your efficiency in working in the online system. So I have the first class highlighted here, and it's automatically listing for me down below the instance of this class occurring. As I toggle down, this bottom lister auto refreshes to include the instance of that class occurring as well. All right. Now I can also, let's do the let's see, I had an example here, low intermediate. Let me try low intermediate here for just a moment. Low intermediate, here's the instance of that class occurring. So we have the instance of that class. Let's look at class enrollments for this class. Notice we don't have any students enrolled in that class. So let's click the new button, and you can enroll students as I demonstrated manually. But let's go ahead and take a moment and use the, actually I need to go here, the student class status import file. Let's save this. I can't remember if I had this saved as my files here, so let's just double check here. Needs to be saved as a CSV importable file, and I'll save this to my import templates file. And close that. And you can imagine there could be hundreds, literally hundreds of records on there. So I just have it in limited fashion. Let's say that I use the third-party import wizard to import students into those classes. That would be the student class status. Here's the student class status. Actually, I realized I didn't align the classes the same, so we'll look at those students there. Okay, let's see. Let's just go through this for just a moment. There we go. Susie students, so I had an enrollment for her in the low intermediate class. And Sample Sam was auto enrolled in the advanced class through that import file. There were only 2 examples in that import file. So you have three options, folks, to manually enroll students in classes, import students in classes, or use the batch insert to enroll several students. Now let me just show you in the actually time is up, but this is worth it here, folks. Let's say you just conducted a large intake session for students seeking to enroll in, let's say, an ABE, or no, let's try ESL low intermediate. Okay, so say you conducted an ESL intake session. So from the students demographics list, now of course this doesn't list the tests that the student took, but we have a pre-configured filter and you can adjust the ranges. So I have an example here, students with listening and reading scores greater than 201 and ending in 210. So if you reference the CASAS scaled scores to the for the different instructional levels, low intermediate is between 201 and 210. So we've identified students that have had a listening test. We want to see any students with scale score ranges between this range, reading scores between this range. And of course, folks, you have a lot of flexibility to adjust these ranges. Typically, students' listening scores may be lower than their reading scores. So, but I'm just using this as one example here. And I've actually, because this is a fictional database, I've just opened it up to grab any records for demonstration purposes that may exist in the entire program year here, but that's not realistic. You would be generally putting in the date of assessment. So notice now here, folks, that brought up a list of 14 students who fulfilled that criteria. So then I can, now it's per site. Notice these are students across 2 different sites. So you can only use the batch insert feature per site. Okay, and so let's say at the North City ESL, so you highlight by holding your shift key and highlight those students, click the More button, Miscellaneous, Batch Insert, Student in Class. So I'm going to put them in intermediate high, or there's no low intermediate, sorry. Just pretend this is low. So I should have checked that ahead of time. The start date automatically fills in, defaults to today, and we'll go ahead and say okay. And we're batch enrolling these students in the class. So this is North City ESL, and we could actually go to the North City ESL class and automatically see all of these students enrolled. And we can do the same with South Campus, but we're kind of out of time here. But let's just go over to the class instances here at North City ESL. And we were in intermediate high class enrollments. And notice you have these students right here with the date of today that we just batch enrolled them in the class. All right, folks, that does it for today's workshop. I didn't have the opportunity to demonstrate the reports that are available for you for classes, but there is just one thing I do want to point out in the reports, whether you routinely generate a student test summary history of testing for students, say in a class, or generate any of these reports. This would be a common one here, so I'll just actually click on that as an example. Notice here in the class instance, and this is part of managing enrollment in classes. By default, all student enrollments are active. If a student exits a class, if you double click on a student, you have the opportunity to then update to inactive or completed and then put the end date in here. But managing enrollment through these class status categories allows you on some reports, a lot of the reports, to specify I only want students included. I only want to include students in this report who have an active status. In other words, you don't want to include students who have come and gone, and you don't want to include students that have completed. By default, this is not pre-selected. So if you generate this report, it will include all students, no matter what their status is in your class. But most often, teachers want to quickly generate a report of students who are actively enrolled in their class and then generate the report. So just be mindful of that setting there. That's what this has to do with. Active is the class enrollment status, which is right here on the student class enrollment record. All right, folks, with that, we're ending today's workshop. If there's anything that you can think of after the fact, that questions about enrolling students in classes, or need some clarification in the information that I provided to you, please don't hesitate to send an email, and I'd be more than happy to correspond with you. Thank you so much for your time and your participation, and I do hope to see you back on how to add instructional hours to the online system. All right, so thank you so much, and we'll see you back after a short break.